And moving straight on in, we can see again about halfway through some familiar faces. In fact, it's becoming even in the West, it's becoming a little static, but especially here in the East. And then another Razor pick. Like, we are seeing this very clear upper tier of heroes being prioritized by just about everyone. Death Prophet, Ogre Magi lead it off for LAI Gaming. Skywrath, Mage, the Tide, and the Razor for HGT. And it's easy to understand why these heroes are so popular. They work in so many different ways, and they're so flexible and versatile. You want to run a mid Tide, you can do that. You can mid the Skywrath, you can mid the Razor. All three can excel at that role. Now, a Visage to go for LAI Gaming. Now, Visage is beginning to see a little bit of pronounced popularity of late, more in the West, but good to see it bleeding over into the East. Some we already got to see Visage some today, courtesy of Navi US, who hung an ugly loss on who did
Team
they play?
Tinker.
Team Tinker. I knew it was somebody they were not quite favored against, but it's the same thing. If you want to defensively tri-lane with an Ogre Magi and a Visage and then try to roam or just try to keep your carry safe, you can do that. They work very well aggressively, so on and so on. So, I mean, would you agree with that, Trout? I mean, it seems like it literally is, especially for the picks, the heroes that are not quite good enough to get banned out in the first phase every time. Like, it seems like it really is like 12 of them that we see every game.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. There's certain heroes that are floating around that have, relatively new faces, but are becoming regular faces now, like the Ogre Magi. I would say almost to an extent the Visage. And even though Death Prophet is on this top tier for so long, I would say at least in the Western scene, especially when we saw Virtus Pro Polar pick him up, like, 7 games straight, it really has just been falling flat every single time we've been seeing it. So I'm curious to see how the Eastern teams play her. I mean, technically speaking, nothing really was changed as far as, like, her damage output and what she can bring to the table when she has her items and abilities up. Like, the only thing that was really changed was the ultimate duration. I mean, it was significantly changed, yes, but the actual power of the hero wasn't really changed. It's just how you utilize and how careful you have to be, or liberal you have to be with the ultimate. So I'm curious to see how LAI Gaming perform with her, because she's still technically the same strong hero, but I haven't seen her really be that effective lately.
Well, to me, the nerf to Death Prophet had nothing to do with, like, actual changes to her, even though there were a couple, as you had mentioned. It was a change in towers. The fact that taking early towers doesn't nearly jump your team as far ahead anymore. It's not nearly as valuable outside of map control as it once was. And more to the point, it seems like the fact that the game is so much more based on accomplishing goals outside of towers in the first 20 to 25 minutes, it has given rise to much more dynamic heroes, heroes that can do a lot in a lot of different ways. If you want an early mech, instead of a blink, Tide can get away with that. If you want to do pure defensive build on Razor, you can do that. Or how about we do what we saw in our last Western series, where we saw him just flat out rush an Ag's Refresher. Like, he has that kind of dynamic to him where he can adapt to the situation and try to find a way to get his team over the hump by killing other heroes, as opposed to just trying to run at towers, which is really where Death Prophet shined the most. And as a matter of fact, Razor even still fits in well to that. But anyway, LAI Gaming grabs some initiation and a long-range initiator in the Clockwork, while HGT snags up the Crystal Maiden. I actually really dig Crystal Maiden and Skywrath Mage together.
It's a lot of power in the laning phase for sure. Like, if that's going to be an off-lane clock, he really needs to get a good block. But he's dire, and he has the little trick with his cogs that he can use. So I imagine he'll get at least a free level 2. I like clock against Tide. I like clock against Razor as well, because before BKB, hooking onto a Razor, he can't really do any damage to you. He's just going to hurt himself, and just keeping him there in place is always effective, especially against the Tide. We've talked about this, but you burst him down enough with Ogre Magi, for instance, or even the Visage, he doesn't stay stunned because of the Kraken Shell. But with Clockwork being able to hold him there in place for a good 4 or 5 seconds, depending on what level the cogs are, it's a lot easier to actually keep him down and do damage to him that way, so he can't get away. So in that instance, I like Clockwork, but LAI Gaming, I really like Visage. I think Visage is just really strong right now, and it has always been, really. It's the power of, like, being able to transition almost better than any other support in the game to, like, a hard carry, really. Like, very hard carry. And the way that it's so easy is that this is a hero that gets hero kills very easily with the KSing nuke, because it's constantly up, low cooldown, high damage, very long range as well.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's not even KSing half the time with Visage. I mean, how many times whenever you don't have a Visage in the game, especially during the early laning phase, do you see some hero make it back to their tier 1 with, you know, 80 HP, 120 HP? Like, it's, when you really think about it, it's very common, especially for offlaners, to just get beat to death and then they run to their tower, and just because it's so early on, they don't want to, you know, the enemy team doesn't want to dive. Visage turns those near misses into kills, and that's where, like you said, he snowballs so effectively. He tanks up like a mother, like, Fogged on Visage earlier today had, what, 45 armor plus a scepter and was up to like 1,500, 1,600 HP? Like,
yeah.
He was just immortal.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about too. That, and then just the fact that if you remember in that game, he had like 5 kills in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it's a hero that racks up the kills early and uses it very well. It's not like, I know you like Crystal Maiden, but like, say if Crystal Maiden got 5 kills in that time, I don't think it's nearly as effective.
No, I completely agree with you, man. And Crystal Maiden, I don't like her in all situations. I do dig her whenever she's with some natural comboing hero. And in this case, there's actually 3 now. Being able to start out with a Frostbite and have Slark follow up with a Pounce, for example, and, of course, the Skywrath ulti. It's just so much damage, and it allows those heroes to begin to roam together. They can make space for a Tide Hunter as he farms a Blink or a Mecha, whatever the case may be. Razor, same with him. If you want to give him a little bit more time and space, you have 3 that can really punish just about anyone whenever they're working well together. There's not many heroes that can survive a Mystic Flare, a Pounce, and the Frost Nova, as well as the Frostbite. So for LAI Gaming, they're going to finish it off with a Lycan, and they're going to have a lot of push.
They are going to have a lot of push. I'm wondering how well they can do in this laning phase. I think that's going to be really important for LAI. If they can shut down this Tide and really keep him off, because if he has a good game, I think he's just going to create a lot of problems for LAI Gaming. If they have like an early Blink Dagger on Tide, Slark can just go in, and this is the beauty of Slark against heroes like Death Prophet, and I've said before, like Terrorblade, that you're like, you want to kill them because they're very squishy, but they do a lot of damage, and you don't want to get returned by just jumping in their face. But Slark is perfect for that because of his ult. You can't target him anymore. So the Death Prophet, he can nuke, but you're getting so much HP regen through that ulti that doesn't really do much. So Slark is really good against Death Prophet. If they can just have some kind of initiation like a Tide Blink, then they'll be fine. But other than the Tide Blink, their initiation is actually pretty bad from HGT. Like, Crystal Maiden's very slow. Skywrath Mage is probably the best they have with the long-range concussive shot. But that's been nerfed, so it's not nearly as effective as it once was. So I'm guessing a very fast Blink Dagger on Slark to just kind of start the initiation. But these are tanky heroes on LAI. Like, they're not that easy to kill. So I don't know. I do favor LAI Gaming's lineup in that respect, just because of the lack of initiation we have from HGT, aside from Tide getting a Blink.
Yeah, and, you know, the thing about, you had already mentioned the Clockwork, great solution to that. But even if he doesn't hook the Tide, just being able to use the Rocket Flare, that can put Tide's Blink on cooldown. And if you're conscious of that, you know, whenever you see it pop, and you go, okay, we got Tide there, you know you can go in, and you know you can try to split the fight apart a little bit, and Tide's going to struggle, especially if you then follow up with a hook or something like that, because most of the time, the Tide's going to be trying to hang around back whenever you can anticipate a fight. So we are underway. Game 1 of our first Eastern best of 3 of the night, just about to begin, and waiting to see if there's going to be any invading. Dos Equis, good to see him back in again. He's marked as a stand-in tag, but he's played every game we've seen with HGT, so I would imagine he's all but a full-time player at this point. Does get a ward down. That's actually a really cool-looking ward. And let's see if it's going to be counter-warded. Do they have any sentries? They do on Super, so we'll wait and see if Super's going to get down there. In the meantime, a couple of wards already went down out in the Radiant jungle as well, as you can see, blocking the pool camps. Yep,
I'm actually going to reconnect real fast because my Dota TV wasn't set up, so
nice.
I'm going to jump in real fast. Did you see the way Lycan was walking, by the way? I don't know if it was bugged for you, but he was just like gliding across the screen.
Nope, looks good to me.
Okay, well, must have just been me, but
yeah.
Should be good sometimes now for Dota TV.
Get them ping issues.
Yep.
Doesn't look like we're going to have any action, so while you reconnect, how about I talk about who's handling who? It's going to be ZSMJ playing the Slark and farming him up. It's going to be Razor, played by Air, who is yet another player who, even though he has marked as stand-in, really has been playing with HGT the most, so may as well be considered a full-time player. Kaka will be playing the Crystal Maiden, who's going to spot out a Bounty Rune, and Super standing on top of an Illusion up at the top rune spot as the horn blows. Tide going to be played by Dos Equis, and Pretty Haw handling our Skywrath Mage. Other side of the river, we've got XZ playing on the Death Prophet. It's going to be the Visage, as mentioned, played by Super. Clockwork will be handled by XTT. He's going to work out here in the off lane. XDD, he'll be playing on the Lycan. He's working his way up the lane with the creeps in safe lane. And 5400 going to be giving him the lane support on that Ogre Magi. And let's keep an eye on how Dos Equis can do. How many times do we see this, man? If you run a Tide into a defensive tri-lane and you get anything, very often you win the early phase. Right now, he may just die. It's going to be, ooh, Visage, if he had just been level 2 and had that nuke, he would have been dead. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, exchanges like that, once Super does hit level 2, those become kills very easily.
Yeah, I like how they kept the pressure there. Like, XDD only has 1 CS, missed another one. He's only in 2 out of the full first creep wave. But harassing out the offlaner, I think, is always of the utmost importance in any lane. Like, if you're going down a list of things to prioritize, number 1 should be make sure offlane doesn't get anything. Especially with the hero like Lycan in your lane free farming, because that hero can just always free farm anywhere. Yeah, he's actually missed a lot of CS now. I think he's missed like 4. This might be another kill onto him. Nope, just putting some extra damage from the Ignite. No clarity for 5400, so kind of a scrappy laning phase here from LAI Gaming so far.
They've got 2 clarities on Super. Again, oh wow. Oh, he got so low. If he had enough mana for an Ignite, he dies to the burn damage there most likely. And he's already burnt through most of his region. He has 1 Tango remaining, and yeah, he's just going to hoof it on back to base. So even though he's been playing right in their face, he's taken so much damage, he's still just level 1. And the problem is when he comes back, we're going to see a level 2 Ogre Magi and a level 2 Visage. There is no way he can do what he just did with those 2 heroes, one now having a stun and having the long-range nuke to go with the slow of Grave Chill.
Oh no, Invis Rune spotted out. I believe they saw it. They should have with a ward. So this should be very careful XZ in mid. It might not be careful enough, though, as he could fall to here, actually. He misses the nuke. This is a lot of damage sucked up, and yeah, this will be first blood in favor of Razor. That just shouldn't have happened. They had full vision of that Crystal Maiden. It was even pinged out by the Clockwork.
Yep. Now, I actually feel like Air just played that so nonchalant, man. He's like playing like right here, and he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna leash you and sidestep. Like it was so well done. And gotta love that confident play. First blood, as you mentioned, goes the way of HGT. And speaking of, they're doing well in the rest of their lanes. At least ZSMJ is. He's the lead farmer, 14 CS for him, about 1 full wave ahead of the Lycan. As we saw, he forewent a lot of CS to try and harass the Tide out. Tide is now being left one-on-one, though, so he's going to get some levels and some gold. Let's see if they can make this worthwhile. Again, level 2 for these 2 heroes makes them so effective at roaming. Air is down the lip. There goes a ward. They just want to try to keep an eye on him. And Air is playing very cautiously. He has to know something's up. You can see he's cheating over to the right side here. And the fact that those supports disappeared from top, I think, was his tip-off. And we're going to see 5400 and Super abandon ship and go ahead and head back to top lane.
Yep, and another kill on to, this time, the Clockwork. So, and that goes credit to the Slark. So 17 CS with a kill under his belt. Not too shabby. This is not too characteristic, at least for me, from LAI the last time we saw them. I just remember them being fantastic in the early game, like just really knowing exactly what to do, what they can get away with, and what they should. There's a Grave Chill up onto the Tide, but I don't imagine the rest of the team can get into range, and looks like they're really going to try to force a push here.
Yep, there's going to be a Fire Blast. Super will be able to Soul Assumption soon if they can get vision of him. Yep, he's dead. So they get the kill. Super takes a few tower shots, but he will escape in decent shape. However, here comes the response. That's Air and Kaka. Super, here's going to be a TP as well. This could go terribly. Super's down immediately. XX right back up, and Air's going to go ahead and head back to lane as Kaka finishes off the second kill over in the woods. So HGT really looking solid. Their Tide ended up brought down, but then he's there for that kill as well. Means he's up to level 3, and I think they're going to be really happy with this laning phase. The Lycan, as you said, really got off to a slow start and hasn't quite recovered in terms of CS pace.
Yeah, and I don't know about that dive, man. Like, what did they expect was going to happen? They're running at their tier 2s with only level 2 Ogre, and this, I think it was, level 2 Visage at the same time. And that gives CM level 4, putting pressure onto XZ, dies again for the second time, putting some more pressure on the 5400, but he'll be fine. Here comes Super with some boots, only level 2 though. That's a double damage up onto the Razor with 56 damage, and now he's going to get the Visage.
The feed is on, man. Like, that's really the only way to say it.
Yeah. Oh my god, I missed that one, actually.
Yeah, me too. I don't even know how he died. It looks like the Skywrath must have done it.
Yeah, Skywrath and Slark. I mean, Slark is really good in the laning phase for catching off relatively, susceptible offlaners. And Clock's not even that, squishy. Just nice job. And this is quickly almost coming out of hand.
This Crystal Maiden is already level 5, man.
Yeah.
Like, just from where she's been rotating so well and getting kills on high-level heroes. And XTT is going to cog, and those are going to be on cooldown now for 12 seconds. They've got Cockeye in position. He just pinged it, so he knows.
He's going to get dove right now. No cogs. If they have vision also with the Crystal Maiden, yep, he should be dead.
They knew it was coming. It was clearly XTT that was pinging over here. And they have the ward down, but he was definitely pinging, like, right in here.
Yep. Yeah, I know. It's just very interesting to me because I distinctly remember this team being very good in the early game, but they're making some kind of weird decisions. And, like, for instance, he knew that someone was there, but still stayed there. He pinged out the Crystal Maiden Invis for First Blood, but Death Prophet still stayed there. And there's a 6-minute Mindus, actually, for our safe lane free farming Slark.
Slark. Yeah, this is, like you said, out of hand is the only phrase that really comes to mind. I mean, I'm trying to find a bright spot. I mean, the Tide's almost level 5 now. Razor's level 7. The fact that this Crystal Maiden is so ridiculously over-leveled. I mean, she's going to be level 6 here in a minute. She's actually going to go ahead and head top. She has her Tranquil Boots up, so between that and her Aura, which she has chosen to max, she's gone 1-1-3. She's going to be able to just stay on the map forever, and she might be able to punish them here if they get any kind of a TP. There's going to be the Glyph. Yep, here comes one in. It comes coming off to the side, and this time LAI Gaming learned their lesson. They're not going to hang around.
Yep, and as I mentioned, the biggest problem I think for LAI Gaming is the Tide getting a decent start. Now, he has died once, but I think he should have been pressured a lot more considering the lane. I mean, you saw level 1. The damage output from just level 1 auto attacks with Howl was insane. But just getting way too cocky and way too confident. I mean, like I said, diving tier 2 towers when you're level 2 for a good 35 seconds, you got to expect a rotation. Like, especially when they already got kills. So you knew that their supports were probably rich enough to afford TPs. But they didn't even TP, they just walked over because it took them so long to dive.
Tide is now level 5.5. He was just left in front of his own tower, completely by himself. And believe it or not, he's got a ring of regen up, and he's going to finish his arc boots here if he wants to. No, he's going to go treads. That's interesting.
Huh. Yeah. I actually really like treads. I'm always a fan of treads in any situation. I mean, I can see the obvious reason why people get arc boots, but I don't think treads are too bad. He's got the Crystal Maiden aura to work with as well, so if he's worried about mana problems, he doesn't have to prioritize. And actually, Crystal Maiden's maxing it out.
Yep. No, that's an excellent point. CM aura, just making them irrelevant, so why not just go with something that's a little more versatile? Now Air picks up a haste rune. He's right on top of Lycan, sapping all of that damage with Static Link. Concussive Shot comes through the woods. He's going to be, nice Fire Blast. That's saved super for sure. One more auto attack would have done it. And
I'm actually surprised he didn't even dive that.
Yeah,
he had a level 4 plasma field in 3 more seconds. He had haste. Definitely could have dove it, but taking the safer route for right now. And yeah, Skywrath actually isn't getting too bad levels either. Almost level 6 for him. Crystal Maiden just about level 6. So things are slowing down at least for LAI, and that's great. But obviously being down 1 to 8 in hero kills is not where you want to be, especially with the Slark that decided to go for a Hand of Midas.
Yeah, no joke. And we're going to see that carry potential. We've talked about it at length. Slark is a fighter. He can come out and make a lot of things happen, not only in lane, but as the laning phase begins to break down and you want to transition into a bit more of a dynamic, fluidic approach to the game. But when he hard farms, if he, going late, all gold being equal, he is very efficient with his gold. Just because of all the reasons you already listed out as to why he's slippery in teamfights. His ultimate alone, but also Essence Shift. Essence Shift in the late game is a big deal. The faster he hits with an Assault Cuirass either on himself or maybe on a Tide Hunter late game, he just starts to take away so much, and he holds on to it forever. So those long, drawn-out team fights you often see 50, 60 minutes into the game, he just gets stronger and stronger the longer they last. We can see HGT is going to try to take this tier 1, and I don't think LAI Gaming is even remotely interested in trying to defend it. They've got everyone in the top left quadrant of this map.
Yep, there is a clock rotating down here. He is level 6 at the very least, so good for him. He's died 3 times, though. So, and this was the player that stuck out to me as well, XTT, as being really stand out when we were watching him. But Oh, so much pressure, and HGT's really putting it to them, at least in the early stages of the game. Lycan is getting his farm on. I imagine he has the Vlad's up pretty soon, just looking at his CS being 61, which is great. Again, the same thing as I mentioned, Death Prophet. I feel like I've never seen this hero won in the last week and a half.
Yeah, the hero has not looked nearly as good, for sure. It's been one of those situations where when we have seen her win, and I want to say we watched EG win with her against VP Polar in their debut, if I'm not mistaken.
You could be right, yeah.
It's, you know, even when you do see her win, at least from my casting chair, it seems like they don't win because of her, and it's not quite that they win in spite of her either. It's just like she's just kind of there and doesn't add a whole lot. But if the rest of the team does well, then she certainly does her job. But it's not like, oh, the Death Prophet's having an amazing game and she can just take this game under control. There's a solo Ravage. Nope, check that. He got super through the woods. And there's the follow-up, but he got the ulti off. No gush and no anchor smash. They may be able to get super at the back of this, and I think they will. Yeah, he's going to be silenced out. Here comes a Lycan back, and he's going to try to TP away, and nope, not quick enough. Anchor smash was there just in case. In mid, XZ and 5400 didn't even attempt to respond. So that first usage of the Ravage, an effective one.
I think Crystal Maiden could have used her ult a little bit sooner, to be honest. She went in there with the Frostbite, and she walked up a little bit, took some time, then used her Crystal Nova, and then used the ult. But her Frostbite was only level 1 at the time, and that, you know, it's kind of deceptive. The Freezing Field has a pretty decent AoE, and she didn't actually have to walk up any further just to cast it to get some nice procs on it. So I think they could have been a little bit cleaner, but it's still a one for nothing trade in favor of HGT.
Yeah, I mean, her, like you said, her ulti, it's not quite as big as Ravage. I mean, that's obviously one of the bigger AoE ultimates in the game, but it's a considerable percentage. Now they're going to try to look for payback with Ravage down. There's a lot of critters in the way. Here comes XTT, going to cog in the Tide. Buddy's got help behind him. Does Skywrath have an ulti? No, he doesn't have the mana. And Tide trying to make a run for it. They're dedicating everything to him. They're going to be able to get him for sure, but they may end up losing something on the back, and they do. They end up losing one, and now XZ showing up, and here comes Razor. Air has actually had a leash on the Lycan, and now they're going to turn this around. And this Death Prophet ultimate is just not feeling that scary at all, not nearly as scary as Air's. And doesn't look like he wants to chase into it. They end up going 2 for 2, but the problem that Light Gaming has is the 2 they gave away are much more valuable than the 2 that HGT gave away.
Yeah, nice rotation from both the Slark and the Razor, and they're actually going to be able to push this tower as well. Slark did go for the fast. Wait, I thought I saw him buy Blink. I just must be. I don't know. I could have sworn I saw him buy Blink, but anyway, Slark, if he wants to get Blink, he can have it because he has 3k gold, and that would be good for him. Just because he's this farmed, though, I wonder if he just gets something else. Yeah. Normally, when you're just this farmed, you get some kind of damage item because you're just that far ahead and you don't really need the initiation. You can just run at them and attack them a couple times and they're dead. But yeah, Roshan possibly in the works here for Light Gaming. No medallion just yet, or do they? I'm looking around. I don't see one, so kind of unfortunate there. No Death Prophet ulti.
Just heard a hook miss. And Air, once again, is going to chase a couple away. And they're going to figure this out. I think they know. Oh, XDD. Yep, they spot it. He has to go into ulti form, and he's just going to try to run for it. There's the Frostbite, though.
There it is.
And super dead. Super dead. And like you said, Kaka using his ultimate at a much better time that time around. Dos Equis does have Ravage up as well. And this just feels like one of those games that if they continue on this path, they're just going to run Light Gaming over. They better not group at all. He's going to be able to Ravage both of these heroes. Doesn't matter. Mystic Flare actually off by Pretty Haw. However, they're going to be able to track down 5400 very easily. Both are together. If Dos Equis can get in range, he will Ravage. And there's going to be the Gush. He's not going to have to Ravage now, I don't think. Well-placed pounce from ZSMJ. That's going to make it 14-3. And they are just flat out running them over at less than 15 minutes in. After this tower drops, we're going to be talking 10k gold they've built for themselves, man.
That's insane at this time.
Yeah.
That is pretty good for them. Tide's going to have a Blink soon. And actually, even though he did die up there in that one engagement, do you see how tanky he was with the treads? Like, if he had Arcane Boots there, I guarantee he probably dies there faster, which results in Light Gaming retreating faster and not giving up any kills. So I actually really like the treads pickup right there. And I missed that, but I mean, more of the same. ZSMJ picks up another easy kill. And he goes for Shadow Blade this time. I actually like this, just for the same reason I was talking about. When you're this far ahead, I think getting a little bit more greedy with your item choices will actually be more beneficial.
HGT looking to take another fight. Blink is going to be up on Tide in like 20 or like 50 gold. Like he's going to have it right now if he wants it. And I don't know why he wouldn't. Yeah, immediately buys it. And they're going to have a chance to close this out. If they're able to siege a tier 2 now and get them to group 2 and 3 at a time and then follow up with a good Ravage, they're going to be able to win this game. Kaka knows where XDD is, follows him with an invis, and he's going to try to TP away. And there's the Frostbite and the Mystic Flare. Hello. That's rude. That's pretty makes it a mega kill streak for himself, and they just can't get anything going anywhere on the map, man. They can. The Lycan right now is is basically the same level of farm as the Tide.
Yeah, it is not good,
yep.
and was more of the same.
Dies again.
And he's got another 2,600 gold. This is, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised the next like quasi-team engagement just live throws in the towel and goes for new.
Yep.
Wouldn't be surprised. This was just kind of like a failure from the beginning. I don't even think it was necessarily a bad draft from live. Just like I said, some communication issues or just not respecting the position of HGT. Like I said, the Invis rune totally seen at the very beginning. Yep. The gank that happened several times actually on the clock, he knew they were coming. He even pinged them out himself, and they just sat there and let it happen.
Mm-hmm. You don't want to call it laziness, but certainly sloppiness.
Sure.
Just not reacting, not doing the right things at the right time. And I'm actually surprised HGT is giving them any space at all. I feel like they could be down their throat right now if they felt like it. Dos Equis continuing to farm up. Did pick up a Ring of Regen. I wonder if he didn't plan to go mech originally. Pipe, I mean, is an option. Don't know that'll make a huge difference. But they may end up taking a fight here. They may, yeah, here we go. Dos Equis spots out everyone. And there's going to be XDT trying to cog into, only got one. And he makes his way out. Now here comes the rest. And Dos Equis going to be able to hit a 3, make it 4-man Ravage. He got one on the low ground as well. That's 2 down, soon to be 3. No, actually, that's 3 down, soon to be 4. And Tide will be, well, no, which is he at Arc Boots now, doesn't matter. GG called, and I don't think there's any shock in that at all. Arguably the most dominant match, most dominant performance we've seen in Eastern play all through the last couple of weeks. And HGT makes it look easy against a very talented and what has to be bewildered LAI gaming team.
Yeah, and you said that HGT is at the bottom. They're 0-3.
Yep.
And while LAI is in the top 3 position.
Yep, 2-1.
Wow. You would never expect that if you're a viewer and you hadn't seen the play prior to this. Interesting. Well, wondering if HGT is going to ride this confidence into the next game. This is what usually happens. This is why generally I would say 2-0s happen frequently, more so than you know, going to 3 games, just because confidence and mentality is such an important factor in games.
Oh,
I think the Chinese are a little bit more disciplined though, and just rubbing off or brushing aside a game like that. I think they're better about just forgetting about it and moving on, just being off business. But still, I mean, you can't. That's a pretty brutal game going into game 2. But
that's tough.
Yeah,
that's like me and you rounded up some stream viewers and tried to play. Like, they just got run over. And it happens, though. I mean, let's be honest. It's easy to forget sometimes just how good everyone at this level happens to be. You know, it's like it's the fact that if one team is having a really good day and another one is having a not-so-good day, even though there's still amazing players on the not-so-good side, they are going to get crushed because the difference in skill is just so gigantic. Like whenever you're executing in top form or just not making the right decisions. And, I mean, to put it in perspective, if you add together all of the deaths tallied by HGT in that game, every single hero on LAI Gaming by themselves died more than that. Or equal to that or more than that. So I think that's all we need to say about that. Great performance from Air, 6-0-5 on that Razor, 6-0-5 equally on Pretty Hop. And HGT looking ahead to game 2, going to try to make it a 2-0 sweep. I'm your host there in AC Chambers. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast, guys. Game 2 should be up in about 5-10 minutes, give or take. And I hope everyone's enjoying their Friday night. Probably got BlizzCon on and one of the other side streams. I'm okay with that. Just make sure that you got the volume back up and you're right back here in about 5 to 10 minutes.